You're here because you're curious, and I appreciate that. You've noticed this growing conversation around women choosing to just step away from traditional relationships and even family life. I would love to give you a little perspective from my point of view on this situation and just confirm that no, women have not lost their minds. And what we're seeing right now, I don't believe is a trend. I think it's a reckoning. Now, before we dive in, I want to be super clear here. My intention is to just simply share what I've learned through my own experiences, my journey, and the realizations I've had along the way. This whole video isn't about saying that there's a right or a wrong. It's about inviting all of us to take a closer look at the influences that have shaped our lives and our society. I don't think anyone has the right to antagonize anyone or attack anyone's beliefs or traditions. However, it's hard to have these conversations without bringing up those things. So, if you are game for an open-minded conversation, stick around. Let's talk. I am Felicia. I am a wife, a mother of 3, and a couple of years ago, I found myself really questioning everything. My choices, my relationships, even my very existence. What I thought was my breaking point actually turned out to be the beginning of this beautiful transformation that I would do again if I had to, even though it was the hardest thing I've had to do thus far. I had to really take a deep look into my past, confront the pain I carried, understand how everything around me was shaping me and had shaped my life without my full awareness, honestly. One of the biggest revelations for me was how the systems I was operating in was affecting me, and even the institutions like religion. I discovered how they had quietly influenced my thoughts, my choices, even my worth. I realized that I had this divine feminine energy, this beautiful, powerful part of me, but I had used it to uphold these systems that honestly were not serving me. I believe what we're seeing now is women like myself are just waking up. We are no longer willing to pour energy into relationships, into roles that don't honor us. And it's not about rejecting men or family. It's about rejecting these systems that demand us to sacrifice without valuing our essence. Another way to look at it is like this. These women that decide to step back from relationships and the families, it's not always because they don't want love or connection. Oftentimes, it's because they've recognized that the terms of engagement don't feel fair. And this is more so about self-preservation and just reclaiming their energy. It's about refusing to accept the roles that are imbalanced and just rooted in these outdated ideals. And look, I'm still on this journey myself. I am a married woman, yet my husband and I are on very different places in terms of, I guess, what everybody's calling now consciousness. And this is not always easy, but it's real. It's through this lens, this balance of struggle and strength, that I honestly see why so many women are just saying no more. This isn't just a loss for women, it's a loss for everyone. When our divine feminine energy is misused and suppressed, we all suffer. Men, women, society, everybody. Imagine this awesome world where this feminine energy is celebrated, where it's allowed to thrive and create and heal. A world that we need to start building. I believe that's what women are trying to do right now. We're rediscovering who we are, and in doing so, yes, that's going to require redefining what relationships look like and families, not as from an obligation standpoint, but as a conscious choice that is going to uplift and empower everyone involved. We have heard the term divine feminine over and over, and if you've ever really thought about it, it's kind of hard to explain, other than it's this energy, right, that exudes from a woman. But today I want to take a minute to talk about what I feel the divine feminine is. This is a strength, a power that each and every woman has inside of her. This is the same strength that has upheld women in our past and allowed them to be able to withstand all that they have. I believe that this energy and this power is at the very heart of the shift that we are seeing in women today. So check it out. The divine feminine. It's not just a concept. It's an energy. It's a presence. It's a truth. She represents intuition, creation, nurturing, wisdom. She is the quiet strength and vulnerability. And yes, she can be vulnerable, but she can also be a fierce protector. And she wants to keep everything real. Like, why the games? She is that part of us that knows our worth, even when the world tries to convince us otherwise. So time and time again, I have found myself in desperate need of strength, even protection at times. And unfortunately, it was because of the wounds inflicted by the masculine. And whether it was from an individual like my husband, or just the larger systems that have been shaped by the patriarchal ideas. Either way, it was the divine feminine that always gently guided me back to myself. She was there in all those moments when I just had to pull myself away to gain my composure, or when I was in tears and just laying around brokenhearted, or in those quiet moments where I just needed some clarity. She showed me my worth, my value, my power.
Now y'all see this big old tree in the back of this truck. If he wanted to, he will, y'all. Just saying. Where there's a will, there's a way. And if they want to, they will.
So as a woman in my late 40s, I've faced a few of life's challenges, and I have definitely had my relationship struggles. Been married for 28 years to a man who embodies 100% the alpha male archetype. Navigating those waters has been anything but easy. But the only way I have been able to survive and thrive is finally by acknowledging my truth and leaning into my true divine feminine energy. Like I said earlier, this energy, it saved me, and it wasn't by fighting battles for me. It was by reminding me of who I am and giving me the strength to face those battles myself. She taught me to honor my emotions and to embrace my intuition and to recognize that my value does not come from being what someone else needs me to be, but from fully embodying who I truly am. And I'll say it again, I believe this energy, this beautiful strength and presence in each and every woman is responsible for this shift that we're seeing everywhere. Women are waking up, not just to their own worth, but to this imbalance in the world that has ignored our divine feminine for way too long. Let me be clear. Please listen carefully. This awakening is not about dismissing men or the masculine. This is about healing the wounds of imbalance. You see, when the divine feminine is allowed to rise, she does not destroy. She restores. She brings balance. She brings creativity. And she brings connection. She reminds everybody, men and women, that there is value in compassion, and there is strength in being vulnerable, and there is this beautiful power in having real, authentic connections and relationships. Now, when a woman taps into this strength from her divine feminine, it doesn't just change how she sees herself. This is something that profoundly affects all of her relationships. When a woman is able to connect with her truth, she feels compelled to acknowledge and appreciate the unique and wonderful contributions of the masculine, while also demanding that her own nature, her own intentions, and her boundaries be respected. Now, I will admit that for a lot of women, myself included, this is not an easy process. This is not an easy thing to stand there and be willing to be displeasing, to stand firm on what we want and need, even when it challenges the comfort of everybody around us. So I believe what we're seeing now is this placement of boundaries that women have just been intuitively guided to put into place. Boundaries that say, yes, I honor you, but I also honor myself too. So it's not about rejection. It's about balance. For centuries, the masculine has held a dominant role. And most of the time, they've held this role without any need to examine or to adapt to any of the shifts in society. But things are different now. And just as the feminine has worked incredibly super duper hard over the past decades to rediscover herself outside of her traditionally supported roles, the masculine is going to have to do this too. That has already started. And if we look around, we could see that the masculine in some instances is struggling. And the journey is not going to be easy for him, just as it has not been easy for women. And it's going to require some patience, some understanding, and a lot of courage from both sides. For men, this means stepping into a new kind of strength. It's a kind of strength that values partnership over control, and things like empathy over dominance, and more emotional depth over that stoic shell of a person that the masculine can sometimes present to us. So what does this all mean when it comes to relationships? Well, for my personal experience, I will share that this means creating space for mutual growth. For me, it has meant holding firm to the boundaries that I've set in place while still being able to allow room for my husband to evolve and remain the masculine being that he is. And for him, it's meant embracing the discomfort of change and learning to see feminine not as a challenge to his power, but more so as a partner in balance and harmony that can be brought to the relationship. Because you see, guys, the divine feminine doesn't rise to dominate the masculine. That is not what she's here for. The energies are not an either or. She rises to heal, to restore, to create space where both can thrive. So she's here, and restoration is going to start with us women. Being willing to demand respect for our true selves while also appreciating the value of the masculine energy when it aligns with mutual respect and understanding. So I recommend not looking at what's happening right now as a battle. In fact, it is a rebalancing. And no, it's not going to be easy, but it is necessary. Women everywhere are stepping into their power in ways that we have never seen before. And men are being called to step into a new kind of strength. So it's going to take us both together to shift to a place where we can begin building balance, and we can really start having more fulfilling relationships for both sides. This is a sensitive topic, and I believe that we don't do it justice when we decide to look at it from a standpoint of the stronger person wins, or the weaker of the two energies needs to subdue themselves and submit. In reality, we need both of these energies to make relationships fulfilling again, to restore balance. As we continue to really explore this topic of men and women and relationships, it's impossible, like I mentioned earlier, to not take into account religion and traditional roles of women and men. These are the very systems that have profoundly shaped our history, our culture, and our expectations of one another. And I'll admit, I have personally come to see how these very influences have limited me in a lot of ways. And even having said that, I still want to acknowledge that they also hold so much value in my life.
Okay, y'all, there you have it. That's how you dig up two big old trees with your tractor. Yeah, we're gonna be looking like who done it going down the road, but hey, it's okay. These trees were free. All we had to do was get the tractor, and my husband put in the labor to get them out of the ground and into the truck. So we saved a few $100s here on these trees that will probably be going in our backyard. If you are new to this channel, then let me just say I have like an ongoing process going on back there in the backyard. So every now and then we get into some projects that we have going on back there. So this is one of those things that will be added to that area. 2 big old trees, y'all, free. All he had to do was just take the initiative to go get them, and he knew I would love them. So, like I said, when they want to, they do. Ladies, I'm telling you, these guys will walk to the end of the earth for you. You can't put them all in the rotten egg crate or the bad apple box. I mean, you know, not everybody's the same. Keep that in mind.
Okay, so the history is there for everybody to look at and to take inventory of. It's important, I believe, that each and every one of us take the time to examine these systems, not to diminish them, but to really understand how they've contributed to where we are today. Religion, for example. It's provided so much comfort and guidance for countless people. While the traditional roles have offered structure and security in certain times and places, but I've also found that these same systems can also place limitations, particularly on us women, and can prevent us from really accessing our fullest potential. For most of my adult life, I have in some way, shape, form, or fashion felt trapped by societal expectations. I've always been battling these invisible forces that told me how to think, how to act, even how to feel. And then when I hit my breaking point, I guess that really sent me into what a lot of people term that dark night of the soul, where I was really forced to confront everything I thought I knew. And yes, this was a time of really deep and great despair, but in the end, it turned into this amazing awakening. This was a time I chose to just lean into my fears, and that allowed me to really uncover wounds I didn't even realize were there. And it was during this time also that I started questioning all of those systems that were shaping my life. It was a journey that helped me rediscover strength that I had no clue was there. And fortunately, through all of this, I recognized that I had this divine feminine power. So today, I'm here to share my story and hopefully help others to understand possibly what may be going on here in this world around us, and hopefully help someone else be encouraged to tap into their own strength. My content has always been about loving yourself, loving your body, your mind, your spirit. All of those things begin with ourselves. by allowing ourselves to embrace the truth, helping ourselves heal emotional wounds so that we can build a life that honors who we are, not who the world says we should be. It's been really frustrating over my 40 plus years to listen to the conversation about men and women and relationships, and we always dance around the same old topics in the same old places, coming to the same old conclusions. And I think it's time for something different. I think it's time for a new conversation. And even though we'll be having these conversations in familiar old places, we can begin to form new pathways through this time when there is a reclamation of energy, a time when we are choosing to honor the divine feminine and rewrite the narrative, not just for women, but for humanity as a whole. If you're on a journey of self-discovery or just questioning the norms, or maybe you're just looking for a place to feel seen and supported, stick around on my channel. I think you're in the right place. And I think we could grow together. Male, female, masculine, feminine, you're all welcome here, okay? At the end of the day, I think women are just looking for a place where she could feel safe in her softness. And fellas, I believe that it's possible for you to find yourself in a space where you don't feel the need to defend your heart. If any of this conversation resonates with you, I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments. Leave them. Let's keep the conversation going. It's not an easy conversation, but it's a super important one to have. And my hope is that by sharing my story, I can inspire others to look within and rediscover their own truths. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for being open to this dialogue.